country's public sector bankers continue to grapple with a number of issues. There was a meeting on Friday where bankers from the western region mostly met up and also met with the interim finance minister Piyush Goyal. Joining us on the phone line to talk about some of the issues that were discussed there is Mr. V.G. Kannan of the Indian Banks Association. Good afternoon, Mr. Kannan. Thanks for joining us. Sir, I want to talk about two or three things that were discussed at this meeting. One of them was this proposal of an AMC or an ARC where banks perhaps hold equity which can hold stressed assets of these banks. So my question to you is that this has been debated in the past. The resolution process is now underway. Why are banks again going back to an idea which in the past has been rejected, sir?
No, I won't say it has been totally rejected. As in the past, as also now, one of the issues is going to be the funding. But we also felt that going through a proper resolution process through an AMC could be a faster means of getting the issues resolved. And the time taken in the NCLT process, though, is a very finite process of 270 days. And we have seen the way the things have been delayed for long. So the purpose is to have a vehicle where all the banks together can sell the asset or get the asset managed. And the funding would be done only partly by the bankers, but mainly from, say, maybe an outside agency. And the entire funding will ensure that the bankers are in a position to get the relief at the earliest. So these are in a very preliminary stage. I can't say that there was a final decision that it has been decided to form, but the exploration is going to be considered right now.
Mr. Kannan, even if this were to bear fruition, could you explain to us how do you think an ARCIL or an asset reconstruction company or an asset management company would work, other than the issue of capital that you just explained?
Hey, what happens is all the loans from all the books gets parked in with the AMC or the ARC at whatever be the markdown, and then the entire amount is given to the bankers. So what happens is this particular bank has got funds from partly from the banks and partly from the in the earlier scenario of ARC. What happens was when you sell it to an ARC, many of the ARCs were giving them only 15% cash, and remaining was coming by way of what's called SRs. And as per the new regulations, any SR above 50% if subscribed to by the bank, provision has to be made as per on the entire amount. So it was not serving the purpose. So through this means we want to have a clean break of the account from the bank to the AMC, and which will employ people with a requisite background and hopefully turn around. This is, as I told you earlier, it is very preliminary, but if this works out, more and more sector-wise assets can be transferred and can be dealt with. That's the idea behind the entire thinking.
Okay, Mr. Kannan, we'll see whether that idea actually fructifies this time. I think the other more important thing that was, discussed was how, this strange scenario where certain banks are sitting on liquidity but cannot lend or are not willing to lend because of the RBI's PCA framework, how, that liquidity can get transferred to banks which are in a position to lend perhaps. Was there any debate, discussion on, sir, trying to ensure that credit flow continues even as weaker banks are focusing on resolving their own balance sheet issues?
Yeah. One of the areas of discussions was that in the case of some of the PCA banks which cannot lend because of restrictions put on them, the working capital requirements for genuine borrowers have to be met. So therefore, it was felt that this same could be met by some of the other bankers. The entire modus operandi was also not discussed. As you see, this was only a discussion among 7 to 8 or 9 bankers. It's not that all the bankers are involved, and some of the bankers who have been present also may not be a party to it. Therefore, I think this is a decision where wherever banks are unable to lend, the other banks should take over. The idea is that the stronger banks or the banks with the higher capital take over the additional share, which would have otherwise been falling on the PCA. Since the PCA banks are unable to lend, then the entire project, the working capital requirements are not met. So that is the purpose behind the entire discussion.
So just one question. I'm not sure whether this idea specifically was discussed at the meeting or not, but Mr. Harshvardhan, who is a long-time financial sector veteran, has written in the Mint newspaper today suggesting that an interbank market be created, which is not just the call money market of 14 days, but a longer-term interbank market be created through which some of the surplus money sitting with weak banks can be lent out to stronger banks. Just off the top of your head, sir, do you think an idea like that would work?
See, interbank and term money market has been in the talk for the last 10, 15 years. So there's nothing wrong with this, and it's a very good idea to have it, but how to operationalize it is a question. And call money market is the only one which is most active. All the more reason you must have been noticing that the only interbank benchmark is the overnight benchmark. If you cannot force the bankers to lend, but yes, if the bankers start lending to each other for 3 months and 6 months at a time, it will automatically create an interbank benchmark. But whether the weaker banks would be in a position to lend, the one advantage of lending to interbank would be that the risk weight will be much lower.